Hi, everyone. I want to just take the opportunity to just say thank you to everyone, to all the speakers, to all the facilitators, everyone who is making this event really a reality. And I just want to take maybe just a few seconds for us just to think about the title of this event, the future of sustainable partnership. You know, this is a very bold topic, and which I'm honored to be part of it and to be moderating. It's going to be a nice conversation with lots of uh, great speakers, all top on their industries. And ladies and gentlemen, what I want to just highlight one aspect: the future is now. So in this discussion we'll be taking some time on talking about sustainable partnerships. How let's think how 2030, 2035 will look like, and how the role and all the roles that we'll be playing to achieve these common goals. With that, let me give the stage as well to Mar, just to give a quick introduction. She's our global chair of global networking to G100. And guys, Mar, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Michael, for the warmth and the enthusiasm for this event. I am particularly excited today because from Global Networking we're starting from zero. And we get, after 1 year and a couple of months, we get to this women empowerment that include men. This he for she and she for he, that is the way that we fabricate, because we do it with our hands, what is networking. Creating a global networking internally on what is G100 and external, leaving a footprint. That's why we go live, because it's a club, G100, but also we'd like to leave a footprint of what means dialogue, exchange, learn and connect by friendly conversation. So thank you so much all to be here today, and especially men, our newly members of our advisory council. Thank you so much for your open mindset and generosity to contribute to women empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mar. That was really great. This our first speaker. It requires no presentation, but like if you haven't been in the world, as I'll say, living, our guest of honor is Violeta Bulc. She's a curator of eco-civilization, a G100 chair, a former European Commissioner for Transport for the EU, a former Prime Minister Deputy for Slovenia, and the list goes on. She's a writer, entrepreneur, innovator, an engineer, and we're really glad to have our guest of honor, Violeta Bulc.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael and Mar. I mean, this is a real honor for me. First of all, I would like to congratulate Mar, to you and to the entire team. The way how you're moving forward is a very important topic for not only for your community, but for the global community overall is really incredible. So and the next move that you did to start interconnecting different smaller communities that exist under this G100 movement that started by Dr. Aurora Harbin is even a greater step, because only through the interdisciplinary interconnectivity we will achieve the future we actually want to live. And it's so appropriate for the title of this event as well, the future of sustainable partnership, because this sustainable partnership can happen only if we interrelate, cross-relate, and really cross-engage. So thank you very much for hosting me here today. I was asked just to open up the floor, to bring some heat into the discussion. So I dare to do so, and allow me to first start really with the title itself. I got very curious. What are really the core definitions that you can find out there in this global world about two important words that are in this title, sustainable and partnership? And I have to say that rarely we really put enough attention to the words themselves that we use. And let me share quickly, because sustainability is such an engaging and such a powerful word, and it represents really an action, the capacity building to endure in a relatively ongoing way across various domains of life. exactly what we within the G100 movement want to achieve. Sustainability also wants to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future. And I had to add the sentence that I really like and I really associate with the sustainability. For me, sustainability are all the actions that make us proud ancestors of our future generations. So if we stick with this vibration, now let's move to partnership. What is partnership all about? And in most definitions, you will find that partnership is a formal arrangement where parties involved agree to cooperate, to advance their mutual interest, and to increase the likelihood of each other's achieving their mission and to amplify their reach. In any case, the definition of partnership is really a powerful word that tells us that we can achieve by far more if we engage with others. So we can be really excellent as individuals. We can be excellent as one company. We can be excellent as one community. But to really achieve a change in this ever dynamic world, we need to connect. We need to get together, form partnership, agree formally or informally on shared visions or shared missions or shared goals, something that connects us, and then move forward. And I do believe that this sustainability SDG 17 has this core vibration to bring these two important words together and strength and put the strength into the collaboration of these two words to do whatever we can to really ensure the future for our future generations, and at the same time to help each other to advance and to achieve what our core mission is in this life. So with that in mind, let me continue with some of the thoughts related to this powerful correlation of these very special words, sustainability and partnership. I would like to challenge you with a bit broader picture, because I represent the community called Eco-Civilization that was invited to join G100 as well. And we are trying to understand where are we today and what do we need to do to really ensure that we're going to live the future we want to live. So one of the first challenges that I encountered was that I realized that there are many global serious problems. I'm not going to even say challenges because they are actually serious problems. But more money, more resources, more energy we're putting into trying to resolve them, bigger they're becoming. We're worsening conditions with actions. For example, more we put resources into trying to mitigate everything around poverty, greater the poverty is in the world. More we try to invest in bridging the development gaps, bigger the development gaps are out there. So what are we doing wrong? What's happening? Where do we, what are we missing when we try to deliver good? Because more good we try to do, it seems like we are worsening the situation. And when you look the world around us, you see that it's in a pretty messy state, which for me, it's always an encouragement. So there is room for us to act and try to collectively find our way forward out of this messy situation and really ensure that sustainable development, sustainable future is actually possible, not only for us, but for everyone who comes behind us. So the next question that immediately followed that, where are we today? What kind of civilization are we? And because we are eco-civilization, we're taking a broader view of over the last 50,000 years. Of course, it's a fair question. Where are all these old civilizations that we hear about? And how many were they in the last 50,000 years? How many we haven't even heard about? And they probably were extremely prosperous in their time, in their own time, but today we don't even know about them. So is the same destiny waiting for us? There was a very good thought while I was researching the history of civilizations that says that great civilizations are not murdered. Instead, they take their own lives. And more I've been studying them, more I see that they failed after a very prosperous period, more or less for the same reasons. And one of the core reasons was inability to adjust to the changes around them. So where have they failed? The fact is that the previous civilizations were all continental. They were limited in a geographical scope. They closed themselves because they felt superior. They were aggressive towards the neighbors and started to play a superior role until something happened. Usually that was a climate change, or it was a series of bad weather conditions, or just the generation of their own people. So all of a sudden, they started to become weak. And because they were not inclusive, they were not trying to build partnerships with the people around them, with the tribes or nations around them, those they were just waiting for them to show some weaknesses. And then they took a revenge and they brought them down. Interesting enough that in the time of fall of civilizations, all of them also, most of them had also a challenge in management, in leaders. Leaders became aggressive, leaders became very autonomous, they distanced themselves from people, and they lost touch with the reality. Does this sound familiar to you? So what can we learn from that? And that is, of course, the biggest question always. So we study to learn, and we are yet to acknowledge that there is much to learn from the history. And what we can learn is that we should not repeat those mistakes. And what are the different conditions today that there might be a hope for us to not to just fall and disappear from the history of planet Earth, but maybe find a sustainable solution to coexist in the future as well. First of all, for the first time ever in the history of planet Earth, the whole Earth has been claimed for. There is no free space where people could move, or when that's, let's say, dramatic climate change happened, or severe weather conditions appear. In the past, nations started to move. That's why we have so many diversified groups all over the world, because people constantly were moving. But they had one big advantage. The climate change in those times was happening so slow that they were able to readjust. And they were able to take these decisions. They were able to start looking for new places. Today, first of all, there is no new places on this planet. But secondly, is that with our behavior, we are still speeding up the natural processes of planet Earth to the point that we deprived ourselves from the capacity to adjust. So, what are the answers? What can we do, really? And if I ask myself, where are we today and what can we do today and where are we good today, I immediately think about successful systems and start to analyze what are the favorable conditions that would allow us to innovate within our societies and civilizations, and to really develop a new styles of leadership. And constantly, the word sustainable and the word partnership comes forward. So it's a very powerful message that maybe, just maybe, we need to really put more strength in creating these global, strong, sustainable partnerships in order to develop enough capacity to find collective solutions that can coexist with the new conditions on the planet Earth that we created together. And my favorite word in that is we need to reinvent ourselves. That is our chance. If we give up and not try to stick together, forum sustainable partnership across different regions, across different portfolios, across different generations, and even integrate cross-civilizational wisdoms, it's likely we will fail. So it's even higher motivation to actually find good solutions to that. And just briefly, just that you know what I'm talking about, the challenges that we are facing today are environmental degradation, biodiversity loss, lack of resilience due to the climate change, which is happening too fast because of our very sort of abusive intervention. Wars as a tool for conflict resolution. We cannot move away from these wars. I mean, no matter how devastating they are, no matter how much we learn from the previous historical devastations related to wars, we constantly reach out and use them in order to resolve the conflicts that appear. I mean, when will be enough? Then unsustainable growth in the sense of population, economic, and overconsumption very closely related to that. I mean, how many times we will have to scream loud that the planet Earth has a limited capacity? You know, the donut theory is fantastic. It shows us really nicely that there are limits in the resources on this planet Earth. There are limits in capacity, how many of us can live on it. And instead of dealing with this where the problems are, no, we are trying to be smart, and we try to really give all the power to technology, for example. No, technology is not the only solution. The poverty is one of the biggest contributors to the overpopulation. Lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. But that is only a socially responsible project to color our companies well. But in the reality, we're not following that kind of philosophy. Or we're creating more and more monopolies, global monopolies. Corporations are getting bigger and bigger, and they're trying to lead the countries. They're trying to take over with their own philosophy, the leadership of this planet. And, you know, no matter how enlightened the companies are, they always look for their bottom line, and they always try to satisfy the owners. So we have to preserve the communities. We have to preserve the community-based countries, because they are responsible for the livelihood and well-being of people. And then, of course, as a consequence, in all this confusion, we see more and more dysfunctional humanity, lack of care, lack of empathy, lack of critical thinking, and more, as I said before, concentration of power. And that goes so well with the global trends. You know, the global trends that we are acknowledging, but unfortunately not really dealing with them in the spirit of removing the key problems and challenges that I mentioned before. We all know that climate change is there: pollution, extensive use of resources, overconsumption, lack of renewables, lack of regulations that would really incentivize us to move faster and readjust our behavior. Or digitalization. This is a big global trend. But are we talking about also surveillance capitalism, transhumanism? What is that doing? What is putting the technology as a goal instead of keeping it as a tool? Global monopolies, as I mentioned before, and already talked about poverty and crisis as a new normal, because politicians keep creating crisis just to be able to govern from a distance and not connect with people. So many challenges where I put a lot of eggs into the basket of sustainable partnerships, because sustainable partnership can overcross this, can really reach across the entire globe and bring people together to start addressing the challenges, not just naming them and coloring them. So here are 4 things that I suggest that we can take to deliver SDG 17. And they are out of the box thinking. They are my personal proposals and invitations, and they are based on my experiences as an engineer, as a manager, as a director, as an entrepreneur, innovator, politician, and now a curator of the movement. First, love and not be afraid to trust life. because then you cannot be manipulated. Second, care and integrate that in products and services. Do not try to manipulate and dominate, because if you integrate care, then you will get this back. Third, do the best you can and learn at every step of the way. That is such a powerful connotation, and it keeps us modest and it keeps us honest. And the last but not least, connect, inspire, and allow others to inspire you, and keep the big picture alive. We got trapped in the quarterly reporting instead of taking 30, 50 years overview of what we are doing. That's why there is no responsibility, because on a quarterly basis, you cannot evaluate responsibility and you cannot even think about it. But when you take a 10, 30 years view, then you have to think about it. You have to think about negative externalities of your actions. And that's where, again, I see the power of sustainable partnership to be able to take this broader global and broader time-wise view in order to deliver. I think I already used my time, so I don't want to be too long, because I know many others would like to discuss, and they will bring some excellent points to the conversation. But if you allow me, just if you can bring back the presentation, I will just use my last slide as a conclusion. So my conclusion is, to sustain, we need to reinvent ourselves. To innovate for the overall good, we need society at the table, which means not only women, not only men. And the G100 movement is walking this talk now. We're bringing together the society. And through that, through sustainable partnership, we should not forget about resilience. And I believe that in this time that we live, resilience is a must. And just a little hint, mass innovation is a good tool to address all of the above. Don't try to squeeze innovation into elite groups, but open it up through open systems, and let's include everyone, because we need everyone. Everyone has a little bit of a jigsaw as an overall solution for this beautiful planet Earth. Thank you very much.
And then something that was also took from this, and I think we all took from this as well, is like to engage with others, to collaborate, not to work in silos, And what does resonate and touch deeply to me as well is that when you spoke about that we need to reinvent ourselves, and it's true. To achieve these goals that we want to achieve, we need to reinvent ourselves. And then that framework in the end, in terms of the steps. So when you say do the best that we can and learn at every stage of every step of the way, I think that encompasses the conversation that we're having today. Is one of our collaboration and one of our sharing ideas and learn at each step of the way. And I will use this to build as the next step for our next speaker, which it can be branded as an intellectual capital nurturer. He's a member advisor of board of G100 as well, a co-founder. So all of that innovation is there. A co-founder, a development director from Mind Turtle. His name is Erkan Isham. Thank you very much, Erkan, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much for all of us, and I'm honored to be part of here for this G100 event. Also, the last speech is very visionary and inspiring, I think. Thank you for that speech, especially the four elements: love, care, and also learn and connect. If I do not remember wrongly. They're very good roadmap for everyone, for of us. And if I can present my presentation, okay, thank you. Thank you. I am a co-founder of MindTurtle. MindTurtle is a global consulting platform. We established the platform in Silicon Valley in 2017, and our operation center is in Turkey. We try to disrupt the consulting industry by technology, but human-centered technology, not just technology. Let me explain later this thing. And the sustainable development goals are in the heart of our mission. We are a profit-based company, but in our company, every sustainable development goals resonates, and we try to add value to our clients, to our consultant members, also to the society. Especially fourth sustainable development goal, quality education, is our focus, and we utilize 17th goal, a partnership for the goals, for especially that aim for the quality education. Also, the eighth one, decent work and economic growth, is our focus. So, in MindTurtle, let me explain about of our structure. We have over 300 members, consultant members all over the world. Nearly 100 of them are located in Turkey, and the remaining one is in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, and also in America continent. And we try to collaborate, and also we try to match clients with consultants. Our main value in our entrepreneurship story is to change the bias of consulting client relationships, because there are very trust problems in that industry. So let me come to today's subject. Sustainability is very lack of sustainability in that industry because of lack of trust mainly. There are many bias on client side, also on consultant side. So we try to establish a trust base with our consultant members and also our client members. And except commerce side, business side, we try to develop some valuable projects for the society. Let me explain about that. For example, it is a mainly Turkey project, Game of Business. This is a gamification project for university students and fresh graduates. We partner. It's a sustainable partnership model, as maybe it can be a best practice from us. We try to support university students in a gamification environment, and they come and as an online and experience a internship 3 months, and they establish a virtual company as a team, and also they manage finance, human resources, R&D, and also manufacturing, and it's a really good experience for them. We give weekly some targets to them. Sometimes it's a financial target, sometimes they're marketing targets, sometimes it's a sustainability targets, for example, for environment, for decreasing the carbon footprint, or just like that. And they work as a team, and they send the solutions, so send their outputs to us, and they're a jury established from our consultants, and also some business professionals like some general managers, vice presidents, or some managers. They score them, then they take their result as a balance sheet and P&L, profit and loss table. So the students, university students, and fresh graduates learn doing things together as a business mindset. Also produce some results together, and they confront their results with a real profit and loss table and balance sheet results. And also they have in reports they have weekly feedbacks from that juries. So this partnership model, we had the 2 year program with that, and in 2020, I think it is 600 university students participate. That it's a huge amount. With the impact of a pandemic, they cannot go outside, so attendance is very high for us. Last year, we are more free, there is an open air. Because of that, it is 400, but not bad. In 2 years, we touch 1,000 university students and fresh graduates with that program. And also, we have in average 50 jury members in each program. And also, it's a very good collaboration and creating synergy with them. So we use that type of projects. If our consultants give some effort in that type of projects, we also give some premiums to them. Normally, we have a commission-based matching system. We take less commission to them, or no commission, to promote them to attend that value create project for society. So game of business is one of that, and we are very proud of support many university students, fresh graduate. Let me have some examples about results of that. Some university academicians put in lessons that program, and they, as a project, they attend with team. Some company admit it's like an internship or a reference. Me or some of our team members took some calls from companies that as a reference in job applications. So this 3 month experience is a good business experience for university students and new graduates. So we have some other projects like that. It's kendi işim. Kendi işim means my own business in Turkish. Kendi işim. Kendi means own. İşim means my business. My own business. What we do here, it's also social responsibility project too. We try to support some entrepreneurship candidates here, but these candidates, some disadvantaged groups like young people or some handicapped people, sometimes, and a big portion is like humans, and we support here the micro entrepreneurship, and also our consultants as a group, we mentoring them, and also we has a 2 month we have a 2 month business modeling school. They have sometimes some business idea. We teach them how can they model their business in business model canvases, and then they have some elevator pitch. They have some investor, or sometimes it's a social responsible product. Some maybe governmental site or something. They have some presentations. We match them also. So it's a good experience. In 3 years, we have over 60 entrepreneur or social entrepreneur. We support with that. It's also good sustainable partnership practice from us. And it is our baby. It's very new project. And we have just have a new workshop, first workshop in March. It's a think tank organization. Also, this is the reason of we introduced with G100. Thanks to this, also some of G100 members we also honored. They speak in our event. We had a workshop on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's an international workshop online, and we have some, we have not some, four keynote speakers about that issues, about women inequity, age inequity, and that type of main questions. They made some presentations, and also in small groups in Zoom breakout group, by using breakout rooms in small groups. They work on it approximately 2 hours or something. At the end, we have a final workshop report. Also in teltech.online website, you can read the report. It is our baby. This year we start that, but our next year we plan to have a workshop on climate change and global warming or something, the natural side of sustainability. And these were some examples that how we do. At the beginning, I tried to mention we are a profit company, we are a profit-based platform, but we think maybe we put this type of organizations, this type of efforts instead of marketing, because marketing budgets we do make something, but we it's not. Sometimes they are useless. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not. But we feel better if we make some sustainable partnerships and community value added projects, and we feel ourselves better. So I wanted to give some practices about us. Again, thank you to all of us to have us here. Thank you, G100, and thank you, our moderator. I will finish my speech like that.
That's great stuff, Eric, and it's a really interesting thing that the concept of the game of business and the way that you actually put in the trust and the matching relationships, forging those relationships for all this to happen. So that's really, really great. And let me just accelerate into our next speaker as well. That is in connection with the same, more or less same lines of that we're talking about in rational business. So she's a global G100 member for SMEs, and as well for in the micro space as well. She's the president of the Association of Business Women in Serbia, and we will be hearing a bit from Sanja Popovic.
Dear G100 sisters from the Global Wing for Global Networking, I'm really happy to be with you today and to share some of my considerations and thoughts related to the sustainable development from the perspective of women entrepreneurship. As a global chair for MSMEs, I would refer to the first of the three pillars of sustainability, economic, which is known, formally as profit. The two others are planet and people. We live actually in the edge of transition to economic, environmental, and social sustainability. It is recognized that this transition must be based on a strong and resilient economy, and that SMEs provide the backbone for this. Sustainable development is all about balance, the balance of economic success, economic environmental protection, and social responsibility. I would like to highlight some aspects of the balance of economic success from the perspective of women entrepreneurship. Women entrepreneurs are often underrepresented in supply chains, but also in approved applications for funding, where the lack of balance is the most obvious. What are the common challenges that women are facing, for example, in accessing the finance? Lack of the property ownership, so women can't provide collaterals asked by the banks. Financial instruments are not often diversified in order to match the needs of micro and small enterprises in which women prevailed. And there is often lack of financial schemes designed exclusively to women entrepreneurs. But not the least is the lack of the capacity among women entrepreneurs to absorb significant amounts of financial resources, since they are mostly small and micro-size. Speaking about the most common challenges faced by women entrepreneurs in accessing the market, we must first of all mention that their size. For example, bigger companies with a growing potential and high profitability could access supply chains that are demanding in the sense of the qualities and quantities of the products, which is an unsurmountable obstacle for most women's businesses, which are micro and small sized. However, there are certain sectors, for example, ICT, in which women are more likely to be involved in supply chains. But honestly, there is very limited number of them in which women entrepreneurs could access big market players through involvement into the supply chains. When doing the sustainability check in the economy, then it would be necessary to check to what extent large companies include women entrepreneurs in their supply chains, and in what extent creators of the economic policies ensure the balanced share of women in getting funds for growing their businesses. At the moment, the economies worldwide are underperforming, and there is a huge gender gap in both fields, crucial for the advancement of women entrepreneurs and more balanced, gender-balanced entrepreneurship. Sustainable economic development assumes inclusiveness, and no one should be left behind. I truly believe that our global network of women leaders represents a decisive platform for advocacy with the aim of making this world a better place for all of us to live. Thank you very much for your attention.
That was a powerful message there. We all know the power of economy in terms of like what the role that SMEs play, in terms of like being the backbone of the economy, and then as well as it was touched as well a little bit in terms of like the role the women play and how they're underrepresented. And the key for me and in what we just heard is that representation. If we see, if more women or even men, as we have here, we see that representation and see the added value that women bring in terms of like any aspect that they bring, being it business, being it advocacy, being it what they want to, the role they want to be. That's really something that is powerful, and representation is really, really key. So talking in the likes of representation and in the likes as well in consulting, I want to use this next gap to introduce our G100 Global Networking and in the advisory council as well. He's a business consultant, and he will really, really share lots of value in terms of this conversation. And I will give the stage now for Gisendra, and I'm sure that we would enjoy this next conversation. Sandra, the stage is all yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
You can hear perfectly.
Yeah. So, namaste from Pune, India, to all of you, Her Excellency Violeta, Mar, Michael, and Arkan. And first of all, let me thank Mar for making me part of the sustainability debate. Like I had the opportunity to get valuable inputs from Violeta, Erkan, and Miriel. But my talk will be restricted. Hello. Yeah, my talk will be restricted to specific partnerships. The first part I will cover partnerships between countries, and second I will talk about the PPP model as discussed last time. That was the public-private partnership. So the sustainability debate hastened in light of the raging COVID-19 pandemic, as the international community, particularly the developing countries, future outbreaks. Fostering cooperative links and partnerships have undoubtedly emerged as the linchpin of the broader development discourse. Here, development partnerships can play a pivotal role in maximizing the positives and offsetting the associated risks. In this context, India's development partnerships have emerged as a potential game changer in the larger aid architecture, given its key role in the development of several of the South Asian and African countries. Indeed, its development cooperation initiatives have elevated its position to a level where it can possibly reshape the global arc of international development. Before independence in 1947, India was deeply engaged in building effective partnerships with its neighboring countries and also with Africa. Moreover, India's development partnerships could be termed as that one essential aspect of its overall development cooperation strategy. Since the beginning, New Delhi's stance has been clear. The international community was responsible The international community was responsible for the economic development of all the nations, not translating as charity or a dole out, not translating as charity or a dole out to the poor, but rather a partnership for peace and prosperity, thereby augmenting the idea of internationalism. Besides, being a developing country itself, India has pushed its experiences towards promoting social and economic development of the newly independent countries in Asia and Africa. If we examine New Delhi's development partnerships on the Sustainable Development Goals in its neighborhood during the early 1950s, it is observed that India, though indirectly, contributed towards most of the sustainability targets. For instance, in Nepal, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Bhutan, it held in capacity building and technical training SDG 17 under the ITEC program, that is Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program, in various sectoral areas such as education SDG 4 and health SDG 3. It also provided infrastructural support SDG 9 to these nations in the form of constructing hydropower plants, roadways, and transportation links, thereby opening up new markets for trade. Now I come to the public-private partnership ventures, which could be a better one if the government and the private company come together. Basically, the problem occurs between both, as there is a difference in the motto of private sector and public sector. Public sector has a motto of serving and serving society. Public sector has a motto of serving and serving society. Profit earning is the secondary goal, whereas the private sector has main focus on earning profit. Due to this basic difference, there is a conflict and projects fail. Here I would like to quote one incident which would support my point. That's a real example. Most of you will not be familiar with the terms here which I'm using, the city name and the company name. But I'll just tell you, the pullout of Reliance infrastructure-led concessionaire from the Airport Express line of Delhi Metro, a showcase urban transport project, has put focus on public-private partnership projects in India. Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, which built the basic civil infrastructure, finally took over the operations of the express line in public interest. I repeat, in public interest, because the government has to take everything if the private sector fails. And the private partner has slapped a penalty of INR 7950 million on Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, setting the stage for a long drawn legal battle between the two. However, there are cases of successful PPP models too, and I will give you a few examples. The first one is Second Vivekanand Bridge, now known as Sister Nivedita Bridge in Kolkata. The Second Vivekanand Bridge Tollway Private Limited, that is SVBTC, is the concessionaire holding the 30-year franchise as per the concession agreement.
Might be having some technical. Let's just wait for a couple of seconds, see if we get the line back up.
We are seeing the challenge of partnership recently. With the connectivity is one of it.
It's true. And then the part that Giselle was talking about in terms of like the contribution that India, and mostly it's developing countries that are having towards the development goals, I think is something that is worth highlighting. So I'm sure there's more people here in the stage that can vouch for that, but I think it's something that developed countries should learn about, and act more,
Absolutely.
Send us back.
I think there was some problem with the network. So I was talking about SVPTC, that is the Swami Vivekanand Bridge Tollway Company Private Limited. And this was a partnership between SVBTC and National Highways Authority of India under the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Government of India, which included a tripartite state support agreement signed between SVBTC, NHAI, that is Government of India, and the Government of West Bengal. Now, SVBTC has been working with NHAI, that is National Highways Authority of India, since its inception back in 1994-95. After a prolonged land acquisition with the help of West Bengal State Cell, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Program, after the project award, they signed the landmark concession agreement with NHAI in September 2002, completed the 6.1 kilometer, 6-lane landmark iconic bridge tollway in a record 39 months, and opened the tollway on 4th July 2007 as the critical eastern missing link of the Golden Quadrilateral of National Highways Authority of India, connecting major national highway network in the east and as a cross-river link between the twin cities of Kolkata and Howrah. During the construction period, the company provided employment to more than 3,000 local workers who were fully trained in highly complex bridge and viaducts segmental construction. Upon record completion in 39 months, in July 2007, the following two world records were established. First ever multi-span extra-dosed bridge with 7 continuous 110-meter spans and 255-meter end spans. And first ever extra-dosed bridge with the widest width of 29 meter using a single plane of stay cables in the central median. For this, they received an award of excellence from American Segmental Bridge Institute in 2007 for the technically advanced first ever bridge built in India. The total project cost was approximately INR 65 million. So this is a good example of collaboration between the public sector and the private sector. I have one more example, but I don't know whether you will have the time. Michael?
No, go ahead, because like you do have maybe 1 or 2 minutes. So just go ahead, because you had like a little bit of interruption, and then we give you a minute extra if you don't mind.
Now, there is one more case of Coimbatore Integrated Municipal Solid Waste Management Project. Now, this project was conceptualized under the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission to augment the existing solid waste management capacity and create necessary infrastructure by adopting an integrated SWM, solid waste materials, solid waste management approach. The project was approved by the Central Sanctioning and Monitoring Committee under Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission in February 2007. The project was divided into 2 packages. The first package of the project comprised of segregation of waste at source, primary collection, secondary collection, and transportation of segregated waste up to the transfer stations. The second package comprised of construction of 4 transfer stations having 200 tons per day capacity each and 2 125 tons per day capacity each. Secondary transportation of waste up to the processing site, disposal site. Then construction of 375 tons per day capacity compost plant, waste processing facility, and establishment of a sanitary landfill facility including scientific closure of old and abandoned dump sites. The project development and implementation of first package was undertaken directly by the Coimbatore Municipal Corporation. The second package of the project, that is construction of transfer stations and all, was structured on PPP mode, which was undertaken on design, build, own, operate, and transfer, that is DBOOT basis. The concessionaire, that is consortium of Messrs. Bharuch Enviro Infrastructure Limited, United Phosphorus Limited, and CMC, that is Coimbatore Municipal Corporation, they established an special purpose vehicle, Coimbatore Integrated Waste Management Company Limited. Now, the key benefits which have accrued as a consequence of this project are that this shows that the PPP model can work. So such projects are suitable for PPP. The project has demonstrated the benefit of bringing in PPP in the solid waste management sector by bringing in private sector efficiency while allocating risks in a suitable manner so that the project becomes attractive to the private sector. The second is risk allocation. This is one of the key benefits. The risk allocation has worked out in the project structuring, also ensured effective implementation of the project. The third was achieving system efficiency. This project was envisaged to be economically viable as the special purpose vehicle is presently incurring net profit from the project. So it is already in profit. Then there was the improved environment and city aesthetics. This project benefits far outstrip the intended consequences. The project addressed a major hygiene problem that prevailed in the growing city. Benefits achieved from this project do not include only the efficiency increase in the waste collection system, but also in closure of old dumping sites, eliminating environmental hazard to the surrounding region. The new landfill site has been planned and designed in a manner that minimizes the pollution levels and maximizes output of full processed compost. So these were the key benefits we derived from the solid waste management project on a PPP mode.
That's brilliant.
example, these are live examples I have given you. One a successful one is unsuccessful, two successful ones, and there are many. Actually, there are ongoing projects on this mode.
Thank you for sharing, Jacinda. That was really good. It's always great to have those use cases, and thank you for sharing those with us. And while you were in, we had a bit of a minor technical issue there. We're touching that point that you were saying that the contribution India is having in relation to the attaining those development goals. And then, and as well, we touched about a little bit in terms of like how developed countries should be, looking at these use cases and seeing how things are being done. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. And very, very quickly, I'll try to get into our next speaker. She's a G100 Global Chair Engineer, award-winning global entrepreneur, a thought leader in the STEM area, and an energy expert as well. She has been named top 100 female executive in the gas and oil industry in Africa. And now let's listen a little bit to Marilee.
Hello, everyone. This is Mireille Tulekima. I'm the G100 Global Chair for Engineering and Energy, and it is my pleasure to join my G100 colleagues on this platform and be part of this forum, who is going to focus on the future of sustainable partnership, SDG 17. And, as you all know, we live, a very, very interesting time, very challenging time. Well, we've just, recovering for, the aftermath of the pandemic. So that's one thing. A lot of, in a lot of countries, it's still very difficult. We've not actually fully recovered. On top of that, there's the climate, the climate issue that is, continuing to bother a lot of countries, because we see that things are happening, the global warming is happening, and there are, different things that we started, as part of, fighting this climate issue. And these things have to be, put on standby because of what's happening in Europe, with the war in Ukraine. So this war is actually exacerbating a lot of things, because it has created, and we see that there is a growing food crisis and energy crisis. So it created a great dilemma to be able to continue the fight for climate change, but also continue the transition to clean energy. Because what we've seen so far is that the supply of of the energy is really sparse. I mean, we know why, because with the Russian gas and energy not on the market, then we see the dependency that Europe had on Russia as far as energy is concerned. And with things being cut, it becomes really a challenge to be able to have access to cheap energy. And that's the dilemma right now. Yes, a lot of countries like Germany have thought that they could rely on renewable, but renewable cannot actually be sustainable to be able to provide the amount of energy that is necessary to fulfill the demand. So we are in the middle of all of this, and what actually this whole story is telling us is that we need to work, to come with an integration solution. And when we talk about integration solution, we talk about creating sustainable partnerships and cooperation. Because as you can see, all of what I've just mentioned, which is the recovery from COVID, which is the step back on the climate issue, which is the crisis on food and energy, are actually undermining SDGs, progress. And it's becoming more and more difficult for us to think crisis that we are going through. It is going to undermine, SDG 1. We're going to have, people becoming poor because, things are becoming really, really expensive. And we see that, a lot of families and a lot of citizens are suffering around the world in different countries. There is, the access to cheap energy, which is now a big question because people are spending ridiculous amount of money on gas and energy in North America, in Europe. It is crazy. And also, the SDG 13, which is the climate issue, where we're having a setback because we see that, in some countries in the UK and some countries in Europe, they are actually going back to coal, which is a major setback on, the energy transition that we've been talking about for years, which is, transitioning to a cleaner energy. So there is a lot to be done. And I think at this stage, the SDG 17 becomes one of the most important SDGs because it's about having those sustainable partnerships and make them work, make those partnerships work and cooperation, and look at things more now, look at the people and the impact on the group, on the globe, more than individual impact that at the country level or at a region level. Look at things more globally, and that's going to be the challenge. Because what we see right now, we see a big scission, between the north, the global north, and the global south, and we need to resolve that. At least as far as energy is concerned, because otherwise we're just gonna, delay the achievement of the full set of SDGs that we've actually set for ourselves. So that's really what I wanted to, to share. And as the global chair for energy, for engineering and energy, our focus will be to see how we can bring integrated solution and put them on the table and share them with the key organization to be able to be part of the solution and to bring value and make things move in the right direction. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you so much for having me. And I particularly want to thank Ma, who is our global chair, G100 Networking. It's always a pleasure to be able to share to the audience that is following our G100 work around the world. So thank you very much.
That was fantastic message. And as Marley says, there is a lot to do indeed. In terms of the challenges that we're experiencing in the supply of energy, and the way that she talks about integration solutions, and the way that we need to forge those sustainable partnerships in order to try to achieve those sustainable development goals. So yeah, that was really, really powerful. I'm not. I might just take the opportunity just to speak a little, if it's okay with Mark. I don't know if we okay, just to speak in terms of first of all, thanking everyone that came, and as well just to show the way that I'm really grateful in terms of being part of this conversation. I've been moderating. Let me just share a little bit of my background as well, just for you to know your moderator. So your moderator is an ecosystems curator. So it's within the technology and innovation space. And as I said in the beginning, the future is now. And as many of us have been touching, we need to forge those partnerships, in terms of looking to see how and the future is going to look like, how 2020, 2030 is going to look, how 2035 is going to look like. Are we on the path of achieving those sustainable development goals? You know, in my realms of expertise is in terms of looking in terms of what's the role that technology is going to play in terms of achieving those sustainable development goals. So what's the role of technology? As we all know, technology is shaping the world that we live in today. You know, it's crucial that we pay big attention to technology and use technology, as was said initially by Violeta as well. Like in terms of are we using technology as a tool, or are we using it to serve the people? And not just in terms of capitalizing the technology. And it's crucial, very, very crucial that we have everyone, every part of the society being part and having their voice heard in the technology discussion. So technology needs to be representative of all the society, not just a specific country, a specific nation, a specific lobby, as we can say, you know. So we spoke a little bit as well in terms of the lessons that we learn from history. So we don't want to repeat those let's say tragedies or those risks that happen in the past that history have been showing us. We don't want to repeat it with the technology space, you know. And we have seen there has been proved there's a lot of use cases. I don't want to be use that time to talk about those use cases that diversity and inclusion plays a really great role, and what's the role of technology that actually uses to achieve those, you know. So just want to maybe just fast track in terms of I'm saying, okay, we have been speaking about the future of the sustainable partnerships. We know that the ecosystem is changing. Lots of disruption is going on in terms of technology. Are we using this technology the way we should? The business models are being challenged as we speak. Are those business models, are those let's say ideas, technologies are they having an impactful? Are they having an impact on the society? As if I can say, and we are here having this conversation here. We all wear different hats. Some wear the policymaker hat, some wear the enforcement hat, some wear the enabler hat, so some facilitator. And for you to know, as I say, a little bit of your moderator, I'm within the facilitator and enabler, and we all are advocates, you know. So just want to as well make sure that we use this forum to not just to speak and learn with each other, but to after we all finish this conversation, as Mar would say, and she's the global network. We use this to network, to talk to each other, and create those impactful, synergies. Because companies, employees, they all know that okay, everything that we need to do now, that needs to have a sustainable part into it. And there's a big push towards that, you know. So let's collaborate. Let's just don't work in silos. And let me just finish this very, very succinct and very, very, bluntly, as I would say. We need to be ambitious. We need to collaborate. We need to make sure that these partnerships are really strong and we achieve those goals. Thank you very much. I hope that wasn't too, intense. But thank you very much. I just want to appreciate your time here today. Mark, I'll let you as well say some words if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. I would like just to add, because after all this wonderful presentation, it's difficult to add, but I will bring my contribution. As we say, we are a moderator and we are also speakers, and that's what's the idea, to moderate, to speak, to connect, to learn, exchange, and connect. That is our slogan from Global Networking. We get used to work through networks, but the challenge is that we don't get used to work on partnership, on a state of partnership and an alliance. So I see on that pandemics, after the pandemics, we need to work on alliance, because solidarity, knowledge sharing, and exchange is what really will make us survive from this crisis and from the one that are coming. So what happened? Identify culture. I think there is a problem of organizational culture. Institutions are not prepared to build bridges, to work open, to be flexible. They only work when there is a plan on a strategy, on a space, a goal, and a timing. And if they don't have that, they think that there is a chaos. So they are not open to new ways of partnership. This one, G100 is one of that one. Is that one of the way to do partnership differently. And we need to learn. It's a learning process and means to change working codes, internal and externally, the way we relate to others. And we must take into account an aspect that is very, very important. That is people's attitudes, rejection against what is new, rejection of what is partners innovative, what is to make alliance differently. And that is also people bias and people attitudes in front of what is that change, that process, that transformative process. Identify one obstacle that for me is key and is the center of all my presentation, that is engagement from the society on the road to be sustainable. The people go to the goal that is to be sustainable, but not to the process that will lead us into sustainability. So this is the first obstacle to gain mass muscle in what is a sustainable partnership. Then we have the system. The system is weak. The weaknesses of a status quo that is based on public and private partnership. That is the leading message that we have, and also cooperation. We have North and South cooperation. Also, the global institutions are aligned to that. But we need to explore, to gain strength, we need to explore new ways of cooperation, like South-South, for example. And of course, what I'm seeing as a threat is the power of the institution in itself. The institutions became comfortable working on a traditional way. So to remove their own working codes means to challenge themselves. But they are not all bad news. We have good news. That is the strength that delivered to the citizenship the multiple crisis world. That is negative, but it's also positive to boost changes. The people are going to be more, they will tend to make changes if they are under an emergency situation. Also, it's an opportunity to boost creativity from private initiatives. And finally, it's the opportunity to have a leadership from the citizen, a new leadership from the citizen that able to reshape the system and make it more democratic. So in the end, it's all about good governance. Maybe yes, maybe we need to put it on the center place, what is good governance, to make it more democratic and to make relations flow better. Finally, as a conclusion, we need to learn, we need to wake up and we need to dream. And we need to learn from the past. We cannot get into sustainability through an unsustainable political system and a citizenship that don't trust each other. We need to wake up. We need to wake up from a traditional system and enter into changes that are preventing us to get to the very essence of what is a global model, that is integration of all, that is the basis of partnership, tolerance, and diversity among all. How we do it? Basically, re-educating leaders. Leaders have to be different. So we have a problem of human resources there, the way they work. And institutions need to build new values building around new values like connection, interconnection, flexibility, and cooperation, as I said before, like South-South. Finally, we need to dream. We need to dream a kaleidoscope of alliance. The color of one will shine only with the color of the rest. A system based on diversity, on knowledge sharing and exchange. As Violeta said before, a massive innovation, put it at the service of sustainable partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mar. Thank you, Mar. Let me just take an opportunity as well to thank and always thank our listeners that have been engaging strongly in social media, and so as well you can follow us in the social media we're very, very actively in Facebook. But let me just as I say, just take us 1 second to thank them all because they've been being very, very active. And that's how all this will grow. We start, sharing and making sure that we get our goals. With that, thank you very much, guys, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.